Welcome to This Explainer. Have you ever thought about how just one word changing its meaning could literally break our ability to read ancient texts correctly? Well, it absolutely did. Today, we're taking a deep dive into a really fascinating journey through linguistics, history, and philosophy. And by the end of this, you're going to see exactly how we can rewire our perspective to fix this major ancient reading problem.
Here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at the modern faith problem. Second, the ancient roots, pistis and omuna. Third, the historical semantic shift. Fourth, the impact on Hebrews 11. And finally, number 5, waiting and weathering. Let's jump right in.
Section 1. The Modern Faith Problem.
So let's start with a huge hurdle. This is something that creates immediate friction whenever modern readers pick up ancient literature. Ask yourself this. What does it actually mean today when someone, let's say in modern secular academia, says they have faith in something? What's the very first image that pops into your head? If you're like most people today, it probably involves someone closing their eyes and just leaping into the unknown.
Right, so today, faith is constantly defined as a blind leap in the dark. We treat it as belief without any empirical data, or maybe just nodding along to an idea in your head, what we'd call cognitive assent. But the first century definition? Man, it couldn't be more different. Back in the ancient world, faith was built entirely on demonstrated reliability and active allegiance. We're talking about relational fidelity here, not just thinking something happens to be true.
Section 2. Ancient roots, pistis, and omuna.
Okay, to really grasp this original ancient mindset, we've got to peel back the layers of the language itself. Let's start with the Hebrew background over in ancient Israel. Their core concept was emunah. Look at the words tied to this idea. Faithfulness, reliability, steadfastness. You see, it was rarely just mere intellectual agreement. It literally meant trusting God enough to take action. It was all about fidelity, especially when things got tough.
And when we move to the Greco-Roman world, the noun pistis was completely central. What's absolutely brilliant here is its root verb, peitho. That literally means to persuade or convince by evidence. Think about that. The actual grammar of the language completely prevented faith from being some blind, isolated opinion. It was a conviction forged by a demonstrated track record.
A great way to think about this is like a marriage covenant. If a husband says, "I trust my wife," he obviously doesn't just mean, "I believe she exists." I mean, that would be completely ridiculous, right? Trusting your spouse means you have deep confidence in their character. It implies reliance. It implies commitment, all based on your known history together. That personal trust, placed in a trustworthy person, is so much closer to the ancient concept.
Section 3. The historical semantic shift. So how in the world did we get here? How do we go from this incredibly robust, evidence-based covenant to our modern idea of a blind leap into the dark? Well, it was a gradual philosophical hijacking over centuries. In the 13th century, you have Aquinas structurally separating faith and reason. By the 14th century, Occam started stripping faith of its rational foundation completely. Then the Enlightenment rolls around with thinkers like Locke. Fast forward to today, and voices like Richard Dawkins have totally cemented this idea that faith is just blind trust, held on to even in the teeth of evidence.
But the absolute turning point? That was the Enlightenment, and it's highlighted perfectly by this 1787 quote from Immanuel Kant. He said, "I have therefore found it necessary to deny knowledge in order to make room for faith." Kant permanently inverted the meaning of the word right there. By explicitly divorcing faith from objective knowledge, he basically turned it into a subjective feeling rather than a rock-solid conviction based on a reliable track record.
And, this creates a really severe problem for us today. Scholars call it the methodological fallacy of hermeneutical switching. Put simply, it's projecting modern ideas backward. When modern critics take our post-Enlightenment definition of faith is anti-reason, and force it onto ancient texts, it's completely anachronistic. They are literally speaking an entirely different language than the original authors.
Section 4. Impact on Hebrews 11.
Now let's see how this hijacked definition completely ruins our ability to read one of the most famous ancient documents in history, Hebrews chapter 11. A modern reader hears this opening verse, assurance of things hoped for, conviction of things not seen, and they immediately assume it's advocating for believing without evidence. But a first-century hearer? They knew exactly what this meant. To them, it meant having absolute confidence in a reliable track record concerning future realities that just aren't visible yet. It's dealing with the unknown based entirely on what is known. And notice what follows right after in the text. The author doesn't just list what these ancient figures mentally agreed with. No, he explicitly lists the actions they took. Abel offered, Noah built,
Abraham departed, Moses refused. It's right there in the text. Faith is consistently portrayed as active obedience.
Let's look closely at Abraham for a second. When he left his homeland for an unseen inheritance, he definitely wasn't just practicing mere cognitive assent. He didn't just sit in a comfy chair and agree that God existed. He made a massive, costly, allegiance-based decision. He trusted the promise enough to completely reorder his entire life around it.
Section 5. Waiting and Weathering.
Which brings us to why this text was actually written for its original audience in the first place. You see, it wasn't some abstract theological dictionary. Hebrews was written to deeply discouraged, persecuted people. We're talking about individuals facing incredible loss, mistreatment, and intense social pressure, and they were seriously tempted to abandon their allegiance. That's why the recurring themes are endurance, holding fast, and not shrinking back. The author is urging them to remain loyal, even when the visible world is offering them way better, immediate rewards.
Think about it like a teenager whose parents have promised her a car for her high school graduation. Now, let's say she's only in 9th grade. She looks out the window, and obviously there's no car in the driveway. It's unseen. But because she completely trusts her parents' character and knows they have the resources, she speaks about that car as a guaranteed reality. That is ancient faith. It meant dealing with the unknown future based firmly on the trustworthiness of the one making the promise.
But we also have to face the harsh reality presented here. Crucially, the text points out that many of these heroes suffered, they wandered, and they died without ever receiving the promises in their lifetime. This completely shatters the modern idea that faith is some kind of technique for getting immediate blessings. Instead, it was the steadfast confidence in a faithful character, regardless of the immediate physical outcome.
So I want to leave you with this question to ponder today. If we strip away the centuries of Enlightenment baggage and finally view faith as an active, evidentiary loyalty based on a proven track record, how does that fundamentally change how we interact with ancient literature? And honestly, even more deeply, how does replacing the idea of blind belief with covenantal trust challenge your own worldview right now?